On this Wednesday night, caught on camera. Another dangerous escape from BC's wildfires.
Oh, Lord. Deep breaths, deep breaths.
As the Premier tours the fire zone. The difficult path to a trade deal with the U.S.
The current situation is so uncertain.
The warnings of what could happen to Canadian businesses and jobs if there's no agreement. Montreal's police chief grilled about racism in the force.
What is it that makes the white man think that he is more important?
And the actions the community is calling for. Plus, being single and not willing to mingle.
I've made my choice and I choose me.
Why more Canadians don't feel they need a romantic partner.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Damage assessments are underway in BC's Okanagan region, where it's feared many homes may have been destroyed by an explosive wildfire. That fire near Summerland forced thousands of people to flee, and though its growth slowed overnight, it has still not been contained, and regional officials say it's too soon to even think about lifting evacuation orders. As Sarah MacDonald reports, it's one of 47 fires burning out of control in BC.
As the smoke clears in the Okanagan towards Summerland, it's a sight thousands are examining with bated breath. Talk to any evacuee from Falder, though, about a 10-minute drive northwest, and you'll likely hear something like this.
It was just straight devastation, watching its toothpicks and a gray floor.
Rick Littner and his son Brock know their property was spared.
There's a guy over there, Tom, he lost his house.
But it seems everybody knows somebody who lost everything.
We've been on evac before. It's real this time.
That's Tom and Angela Vandewater, who barely made it out.
We felt this like crazy tornado fire wind coming.
Not only feeling the terrifying force of a wicked weather phenomenon known as a pyrocumulonimbus cloud, but capturing it on camera.
When you see a fire vortex coming at you,
you don't grab your garden hose.
Yeah, just run.
Oh, deep breaths. Oh my God, I can't see.
With heart-stopping footage surfacing of an exodus forced by a still out-of-control wildfire, Premier David Eby arrived to a city packed with displaced constituents Wednesday, as the federal government implied it has funds approved and ready to spend. Telling Global News in a statement, "We are awaiting the province's confirmation of its specific needs so that we can move forward."
To be clear, we would never turn down federal funding.
Eby insisting that offer is only for accommodation. Closer to the U.S. Canada border, this First Nation is on watch.
We're surrounded by fires. You take a look at northeast, southwest, we're surrounded.
Nestled between blazes, burning to the north in Summerland and to the south in Washington state, with intimate knowledge of just how quickly flames can shift. Devastated by wildfire in 2018.
It jumped 3 mountains within 24 hours. That's how bad the winds got here.
Holy crap, exploding into flames everywhere.
With a wildfire season that is already one of the province's worst on record and still far from over, some advice for anyone who thinks they can beat the force of nature.
You run like hell. Run like hell. Don't wait for it to be like as close as we had it. Go.
As an entire region waits on the wind. Sarah MacDonald, Global News, Penticton, BC.
The Canadian government is spending $34 million on projects aimed at making communities more resilient to climate change. More than 100 communities will receive the funding. Among the projects, shoreline restoration, erosion control, and cooling measures in city parks. The money is part of the government's Green Municipal Fund. There is 1 week left until a deadline the U.S. president has set to impose more punishing tariffs on a range of Canadian exports to the U.S. Negotiations are underway in Washington on how to avoid the worst of it. And though those involved are not saying anything publicly, Global News has learned detailed talks are taking place on tariffs. Mackenzie Gray is with me from Ottawa. Mackenzie.
Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominique LeBlanc and Chief Trade Negotiator Janet Charette are still in Washington, Donna, but their offices won't say who, if anyone, they met with on Wednesday. Sources with knowledge of the negotiations say there's been substantial progress. One source referred to talks as now in the weeds, another saying they're now going line by line on specific goods that have been tariffed by the Americans. The 4 sectors in play: aluminum, steel, autos, and softwood lumber. Sources tell Global News the Americans will not accept any deal that doesn't have some level of tariffs on these sectors. Conversely, Canada won't accept a deal unless there's a substantial reduction from the current 50% tariff level. Any deal that is agreed on is likely to have varying tariff levels on each of those 4 sectors, according to 2 sources, with softwood lumber likely the most complicated. The Americans are looking for supply management concessions from Canada. Currently, there are quotas for 12 different types of U.S. dairy products that can be sold into Canada tariff-free. The U.S. wants that changed to allow more flexibility on what can be sold, but are currently not looking for an increase in the total amount of dairy allowed into Canada. Canada is willing to let the new 50% tariffs come into force next week if the Americans don't cut current tariffs enough, but there does seem to be urgency on both sides. One source saying the White House wants trade proposals before the new tariffs come into effect on the 19th. But even if negotiators can find a deal, Donna, the president also needs to agree. Someone with a reputation for ripping up and backing out of deals at the last second.
Okay, Mackenzie in Ottawa, thanks. Well, anything is possible with the Trump administration, and Canadian businesses have been trying to adapt to the uncertainty, plus contemplate what might happen if no deal is reached that satisfies President Trump and he goes ahead with those 50% tariffs. Jackson Prosco reports on the potential impact.
As Canada's trade negotiators continue their quiet work in Washington, business groups are sounding the alarm over what they say failure to reach a deal would mean.
If those 50% tariffs are implemented, it could mean that businesses would just shut their door.
2 in 5 Canadian exporters say they'll be impacted by U.S. President Donald Trump's proposed 50% tariff, according to a survey by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. More than 1/3 of those companies say they'd expect their revenues to be cut in half or more.
The current situation is so uncertain. Who knows what will happen next week?
The U.S. has $1 trillion economic reasons to get to the right place on this. We stand to lose $1 trillion in our GDP if the deal doesn't get renewed.
An equally worrying study by the Canadian American Business Council warns without a deal, there will be substantial damage to both economies. If CUSMA is terminated, Canada's GDP would fall by 1%, $271 billion over the next decade, and over 100,000 jobs would be lost. The U.S. would take a 0.4% loss to its GDP and lose nearly 250,000 jobs, all while household costs for Canadians and Americans rise.
I love tariffs. They're my favorite word in the dictionary, tariff.
But Donald Trump's appetite for tariffs seems insatiable.
Canada's nasty. They're nasty.
Raising concern that Ottawa will have no choice but to take a deal that keeps some of Trump's tariffs in effect.
The status quo is not the best case scenario, but it's also not the worst case scenario.
For businesses on both sides of the border, it may simply be the cost of doing business in Trump's America. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
Montreal's police chief is facing tough questions about allegations of racist behavior among some officers on the force. The police service has announced an overhaul aimed at restoring trust within the community and ending discrimination within the ranks. Phil Carpenter explains the allegations and why there is skepticism things will change.
What will produce a different result now?
There's little disagreement about the mood at Tuesday night's public meeting at Montreal City Hall.
There was a lot of tension, I think.
It was a very difficult but necessary conversation.
Tough, very emotional.
It was the first time that the public had a chance to question Police Chief Fadi Dagger directly, since disturbing allegations he made public in June of racist behavior by members of a Montreal North police station.
Very clear that they were looking for concrete actions and concrete results.
Some of the alleged acts include stopping Black and Arab residents based on race and collecting locks of hair of Black men as trophies. 3 officers have been suspended, 3 have been placed on administrative duties, and 10 transferred to other stations.
And we are sending all the reports to the DPCP
to see if criminal charges will be laid. Tuesday night, people went to the meeting to get answers about stopping racial profiling and racist behavior.
What is it that makes the white man think that he is more important?
The police chief pointed to some community and police initiatives he believes are starting to bear fruit. But some people wanted to hear more, like an apology.
And I felt like he missed a great opportunity to show how much he cared about us, pretty much.
People also expected to hear the chief say the force would stop street checks.
Experts have been clear about the fact that it leads to racial profiling.
But Dagger argues street checks of pedestrians when there is a reason to can save lives.
We had to check with the vulnerable people on the streets, with the people who are missing.
He admits those street checks without a reason are forbidden. Some officers might still do it. That and other bad habits, he says, will take time to root out.
We may have to turn to the courts for greater guidance on that.
The investigation of the Montreal North allegations is ongoing. Phil Carpenter, Global News, Montreal.
The son of Hollywood filmmaker and actor Rob Reiner has been indicted on charges of murdering his parents. The grand jury indictment includes allegations Nick Reiner was lying in wait before attacking Rob and Michelle Reiner and makes him potentially eligible for the death penalty or life without parole. It's a major step towards trial, allowing prosecutors to skip the preliminary hearing. The couple was fatally stabbed in their upscale home on December 14th last year. Nick Reiner has pleaded not guilty. Mounting outrage in Columbia. Coming up, the anger over the government's response to this week's deadly earthquake. Plus, disaster in the U.S. Midwest after a storm tears through several states. And the moment millions watch parts of Europe plunge into darkness. Crews in the U.S. Midwest are cleaning up after a fierce storm. It knocked down trees and power lines in several states. 3 people are dead, including a 4-year-old boy in Indiana who was killed when a tree fell on his family home. The severe weather triggered tornadoes, heavy rain, and flash flooding. Damage is reported from Illinois to western Pennsylvania, with a state of emergency in effect in Ohio. More stormy weather is in the forecast over the next few days. Tourists in Italy are flocking to see Mount Etna, Europe's highest and most active volcano. It's been erupting for 6 days now, and companies that organize nighttime hikes to watch the eruption up close say they've been flooded with calls. Etna is also spewing ash, and hundreds of flights have been canceled as a result. The ash has reportedly reached Malta and as far away as Libya. New drone footage from Columbia shows the extent of the damage from Monday's 7.4 magnitude earthquake. At least 250 people are known to have died. Thousands more are feared missing. And as Redmond Shannon reports, there's growing anger about the response from Columbia's government, which was sworn into office just days before the quake.
Frantic rescue efforts in the city of Cali, followed by an urgent silence as teams of volunteers listen for signs of life beneath the tons of rubble. At this site, hope is fading, but hope is what Marcela holds on to. She shows where her partner, his daughter, and his parents lived, unaware if they are alive or dead. The mayor of Cali says the critical 72-hour mark is fast approaching. On Tuesday, he was chased away from a rescue site by residents incensed by the speed of the local response. Aid shipments are arriving, and the first international rescue teams have now landed from Mexico and the US. But there is criticism from opposition lawmakers that other such offers of foreign personnel have been declined or ignored by the brand new government of President Abelardo de la Espriella, a man who'd never held political office before Friday.
Media reports on the ground who are saying that in hard-to-reach areas there are very little staff to attend.
Columbia analyst Gladys Gonzalez says it should be noted coordination is difficult given Colombia's geography. The foreign minister says Colombia is not ruling out help from any country. Colombians, meanwhile, are praying for more rescues like this. A mother who had gone missing on her son's birthday found alive. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Still ahead, what a popular reality show tells us about dating these days. It's a magical moment when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun and Earth is plunged into darkness. Today's solar eclipse was only partial in Canada, but it was total in parts of Europe. The phenomenon was best seen in northern Spain, where clear skies allowed people there to see the eclipse happen in all its glory. Iceland was in the path of totality too. Clouds, though, covered most of the spectacle there. Other parts of Europe and northwestern Africa also got to see a partial solar eclipse. In parts of Canada, only a sliver of the sun was covered. One of the world's most popular reality dating shows is getting a Canadian spin-off. Love is Blind started in the U.S. A number of other countries have since produced their own versions. The series is arriving in Canada at a curious time for the modern dating scene. As Touria Izri reports, an increasing number of Canadians seem to be burned out about looking for love.
I want to be engaged in a week. I'm getting married.
Canadians are getting their chance at finding a future spouse through a wall. The Netflix hit Love is Blind is now auditioning Canucks.
Would a Toronto girl move her life to Nunavut if she found the right man?
Singles go on dates, but not face-to-face. They're separated inside rooms known as pods. They don't see who's on the other side until after accepting a marriage proposal.
Nossos solteiros da vez têm mais de 50 anos.
A fast-paced mating ritual that has global appeal. The franchise is certainly more successful than the survival rate. Most couples don't stay together.
The show's popularity comes at a time when many singles say modern romance is in a slump. People are tired of apps, and in some cases, they're checking out of the dating market altogether.
With headlines like the Great Romance Slump, It's Not You, Dating Apps Are Getting Worse, the rise of singlehood is reshaping the world. It's no wonder hopeless romantics are feeling, well, hopeless.
It's all about not being perfect that makes it so special.
Patricia Lepage is a Montreal matchmaker and says many of her clients are burnt out.
Dating today could be frustrating and hard because of all the algorithms. There's a lot of texting and not meeting people.
Not everyone necessarily needs another half to complete them. New research from Simon Fraser University finds people who embrace singlehood can be more satisfied with their lives than those who view it as a flaw.
Having a romantic partner isn't a prerequisite to enjoying your life, and that it really is just the way you look at it.
I'm saying to people, go out there, talk, mingle, wasting time is not talking to somebody.
Her advice, swipe and stream less and take a fresh look at the world around you. Touria Izri, Global News, Montreal.
I have the envelope and we're going to call our top 20.
Before we do that, Sunny, I wanted to acknowledge something. If we can turn the music down just a little bit.
Miss Universe Canada is apologizing after one of the show's hosts and a former champion, Ashley Callingbull, called out two contestants for cultural appropriation. Callingbull, who is Indigenous and won the competition in 2024, was upset that one non-Indigenous woman wore a traditional headdress, another wore Inuit attire. Miss Universe Canada thanked Callingbull for raising the issue. It says it's implementing a comprehensive costume guide to make sure it doesn't happen again. A display of divinity, why thousands of White Sox fans were wearing black hats at the game. The NBA's most valuable franchise, the LA Lakers, is being sold for a second time in a year. Former Disney CEO Bob Iger and investor Josh Kushner will pay a reported $12.5 billion for the team. The current owner bought the Lakers less than a year ago for $10 billion. Josh Kushner was also involved in a failed attempt to sell a stake in FIFA's operations to private investors. It was a holy night for White Sox fans in Chicago Tuesday night. Almost everyone in the sellout crowd wore special headgear fit for a pope. That's because one of the team's biggest fans is Pope Leo himself, who grew up on the south side of Chicago and has never forgotten his roots or his team. A team hoping the papal connection might include a little divine intervention, as Eric Sorensen reports.
They're called miters, and all 40,000 went fast, exactly like, well, similar to the ceremonial headwear worn by you-know-who. Turns out Pope Leo from the south side of Chicago is a lifelong White Sox fan, and this was one promotion not to be missed. How about the first pitch from Sister Mary Jo Sobiech? There's a mural of the Pope. It all evokes a certain transcendence. A sanctuary for the players, a few are cloistered. Here's a confessional for sins on the mound. And call these ecumenical discussions. The Sox and their fans are doing all they can to optimize the relationship. Last year, the Archbishop led a mass at the ballpark, and Pope Leo beamed in with a message.
My dear friends, it's a pleasure for me to greet all of you gathered together at White Sox Park.
You have to appreciate the long history of the White Sox. Not that many big moments, and two of them are bad. First, the Black Sox scandal, when 8 White Sox players were paid by gamblers to throw the 1919 World Series. The team wouldn't win a title till 2005, and a certain future pope attended that series. Where he sat is now a special seat in the stadium. Fast forward to 2024, and the other infamous milestone, the White Sox lost 121 games that year, the worst in the history of baseball, worse than the '62 Mets. But then, in 2025, White Sox fan Robert Prevost became Pope. And then in 2026, they have 61 wins already, and they're in first place in their division. I'm just saying.
Pope Hat Night. Everyone is having fun.
On Tuesday, the White Sox hit 3 home runs, and each homer brought out the team's new mitre in the dugout. A fifth-inning moment of peace be with you seemed fitting.
Whether you're Catholic or not. So everybody should stand and find a new friend around you and offer each other the sign of peace.
If some were feeling divine intervention, how then to explain Cincinnati's comeback to beat the White Sox? It's been said, God works in mysterious ways. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
And that is Global National for this Wednesday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is Tangle Falls in Jasper National Park, Alberta. We'd love to see Your Canada. Please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.